Practice in this rubric with Algebra 1 Honors. Today's lesson is 10-1, Organizing and Displaying Data. Creating a relative frequency table. The frequency of a data value is the number of times it occurs. The frequency table shows the frequency of each data value. So the frequency table shows the result of the survey that Jenna took at her school. She asked 40 randomly selected students whether they preferred dogs, cats, or other pets. Convert this table to a relative frequency table that uses decimals as well as the one that uses percents. Alright, so here's her initial table. Divide the numbers in the frequency table by the total to obtain relative frequencies as decimals. Record the results in the table as shown. So 18 out of 40 is 0.45. 12 out of 40 reduces to what? 12 divided by 40, you're going to get 0.3. 10 divided by 40 is 0.25. And 40 divided by 40 is 1 whole, right? So 45% plus 30% plus 25% equals 100%. So now we're going to write these as percentages. So if I'm taking 0.3, I'm changing it from a decimal to a percent. I move 2 places towards the percent sign and add the percent signs. This is 30%, 25%, and the total is 100%. Okay? How can you check that you've correctly converted frequencies to relative frequencies? You add these up and make sure that they add to 100%. Explain why the number in the total column of the relative frequency table is always 1 or 100%, because the whole amount, right? One whole. The whole thing is 100%. In previous example, the categorical value variable for pet preference and the variable had 3 possible values: dog, cat, and other. The frequency table listed the frequency of each value of that single variable. If you have 2 categorical variables whose values have been paired, your list of frequencies of the paired values in the two-way frequency table. So creating a two-way frequency table. For her survey, Jenna also recorded the gender of each student. The results are shown in her two-way frequency table below. Each entry is the frequency of students who prefer a certain pet and are a certain gender. For instance, 8 girls prefer dogs as pets. Complete the table. Okay, so 8 plus 10 is 18 total students prefer dogs. 7 plus 5 is 12 total students that prefer cats. And 9 plus 1 is 10 total students that have an other preference other than a cat or a dog, different pet. All right, well, 18, 28, 38, 39, 40. There's 40 total students. Here we have 10, 15, 24, 7 plus 40, 15, 16. 16 plus 24 is 40, so we know that we didn't mess anything up. Find the total number for each gender by adding the frequencies in each row. Write the row totals in the total column. Find the total number preferred by each preferred pet by adding the frequencies in each column. Write the column totals in the total row. Find the grand total for which the sum of the rows equals as well as the sum of the columns total to, and the grand total for the lower right corner of the table is going to be 40. This adds to 40 and this adds to 40, otherwise you made a mistake. Where have you seen the numbers in the total row before? So where did you guys see the numbers in the total row before? You saw them in the frequency tables on the previous page, right? In terms of Jenna's survey, what does the grand total represent? What's the grand total? The number of what? The number of students surveyed. You can obtain the following relative frequencies from a two-way frequency table. A joint relative frequency is found by dividing a frequency that is not in the total row or the total column by the grand total. A marginal related frequency is found by dividing a row total or a column total by the grand total. The two-way relative frequency table displays both joint relative frequencies and marginal relative frequencies. Creating a two-way frequency table. Create a two-way relative frequency table for Genna's data. Divide each number in two-way frequency table from the previous example by the grand total. Write the quotients as decimals. All right, so we had 8 out of 40 is 0.2. The total is 18 out of 40, which is 0.45. So if we had 18 total minus 8, that means that this must have been 10 out of 40, which is 0.25. 25% plus 20% is 45%. We know that this adds up to 1. Use the table from the previous example to write the grand total. Okay, so we need to use the information. So the girls had 8 and 10. This was 7 and 1, 5 and 9, so over 40. All right, so 7 over 40 is what? What are you going to get for 7 over 40? Point what? .175. 5 out of 40. 0.125. And then that's going to add up to 12 out of 40, which is 0.3. 1 out of 40 is 0.025. 9 out of 40 is 0.225. And these are going to add up to 10 out of 40, which is 0.25. Okay, so 8 plus 7 plus 1 is going to give you 16 out of 40, which is 0.4. And then 10 plus 5 plus 9, that's 15 plus 9, 24 out of 40, which is going to give you 0.6. 60% plus 40% is 100%, or 1. Check by adding the joint relative frequencies in a row or column to see if the sum equals the row or the column's marginal relative frequency. So we had the girl row, 0.2 plus 0.175 plus 0.025 equals 0.4, right? That worked. For the boys row, we had 0.25 plus 0.125 plus 0.225 equaling 0.6. Dogs, 0.2 plus 0.25 equals 0.45, yes. Cats, 0.175 plus 0.125 equals 0.3. And then your other 0.025 plus 0.225 equals 0.25, so we know we're good. A joint relative frequency in a two-way relative frequency table tells you what portion of the entire data set falls into the intersection of a particular value of one variable and a particular value of another variable. For instance, the joint relative frequency of students surveyed who are girls and prefer dogs as pets is 0.2 or 20%. What is the joint relative frequency of students surveyed who are boys and prefer cats as pets? Boys and cats, what do you guys get? 5 out of 40, which is 0.125, or 12.5%. Right? Boys and cats. A marginal relative frequency in a two-way relative frequency table tells you what portion of the entire data set represents a particular value of just one of the variables. For instance, the marginal relative frequency of students surveyed who prefer dogs as pets is 0.45 or 45%. What is the marginal relative frequency of students surveyed who are girls? What do you guys think? %, right? Girls, there's 16 out of 40 girls, which is 0.4 or 40%. One other type of relative frequency that you can obtain from a two-way frequency table is conditional relative frequency. A conditional relative frequency is found by dividing a frequency that is not in the total row or the total column by the frequency's rows total or column total. From Genna's two-way frequency table, you know that 16 students were surveyed are girls, and 12 students surveyed prefer cats as pets. You also know that 7 students surveyed are girls who prefer cats as pets. Use this information to find each conditional relative frequency. Find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed prefers cats as pets. So given that the student is a girl. So girls that prefer cats. Girls that prefer cats. Divide the number of girls who prefer cats by the number of girls. So how many girls prefer cats? Girls that prefer cats. 7 girls prefer cats out of how many total girls? 7 out of 16 total girls, right? Prefer cats. Divide the number of girls who prefer cats by the total number of girls. Express your answer as a decimal and a percent. 7 divided by 16 is 0.4375, which is 43.75%. Find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed is a girl, given that the student prefers cats as pets. All right, so we want to know the percent, like the percent that it's a girl out of people who prefer cats. So how many girls prefer cats? 7 girls prefer cats out of the total number of people who prefer cats. 7 out of 12. Right? This is the girls who prefer cats out of the total number of people who prefer cats. 7 divided by 12 is 0.583 repeating, or 58.3 repeating percent. When calculating a conditional relative frequency, why do you divide by a row total or a column total and not by the grand total? Because you're only dealing with one specific thing, right? You're not dealing with everything. You're dealing with something specific. Only dealing with a part of the data, not all of the data, right? Just a certain criterion. You can obtain conditional relative frequencies from a two-way relative frequency table. For instance, in Genna's survey, the relative frequency of girls who prefer cats as pets is 0.175, and the relative frequency of girls is 0.4. Find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed prefers cats as pets, given that the student is a girl. All right, so how many girls are there? What are we doing here? They gave us enough information right here, right? So relative frequency of girls is 0.4. And girls who prefer cats as pets, girls that prefer cats as pets out of girls. 0.175 divided by 0.4 is going to be 0.4375, or 43.75%. So we're looking for 17.5% of the 40% is 43.75%. This is another way of getting to the same answer right here. Genna conducted her survey because she was interested in the question, does gender influence what types of pet people prefer? If there's no influence, then the distribution of gender within each subgroup of pet preference should roughly equal the distribution of gender within the whole group. Use the results of Genna's survey to investigate possible influences of gender on pet preference. Identify the percent of all students surveyed who are girls. What percent of students surveyed are girls? What? 40%, right? Determine each conditional relative frequency. Of the 18 students who prefer dogs as pets, 8 were girls. What percent of girls given a preference for dogs as pets? Well, 8 girls out of 18 students, right? So that's going to be 44%, right? Of the 12 students who prefer cats as a pet, 7 are girls. So 7 out of 12, 58%. Of the 10 students who prefer other pets, 1 is a girl. So that's 0.1 or 10%, right? Interpret the results by comparing each conditional relative frequency to the percent of all students surveyed who are girls. The percent of girls among students who prefer dogs is fairly close to 40%. So gender does not appear to influence preference for dogs. The percent of girls among students who prefer cats is much greater than 40%. Which conclusion might you draw in this case? What conclusion, guys? Girls are more likely than boys to prefer cats as pets. The percent of girls among students who prefer other pets is much less than 40%. What conclusion might you draw in this case? Anybody? Girls are less likely than boys to prefer other pets. All right, guys, so I think you're kind of getting the hang of this. What do you think? Yeah? So your homework tonight is on page 555 and 556 in your workbook. In addition to that, you guys have the CC pages. So in your textbook, which you're going to go to the online textbook, the CC pages are in the front of the textbook. You just go to the online textbook pages and you can type them in. But the CC pages are in the front of the textbook. And these are the countdown to mastery, the countdown to your EOC. So tonight you guys are going to be doing your CC page 36. CC page 36 and CC page 37, okay? So you guys are going to be doing CC page 36 and CC page 37, as well as your workbook page 555 and 556. In addition to that, you guys are also going to do the Algebra Nation Section 7, Test Yourself. I will take the best grade out of up to 2 attempts, graded on accuracy. That is the Algebra Nation Section 7, Test Yourself. Please like and subscribe and have a fantastic day.